this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, OurScoop.com's podcast. This is Season 9, Episode 24. I'm OurScoop.com editor John DeCarlo. Got a full house today. Kyle Gauss, Declan Landis, Rymir Vaughn, and Johnny Zawislak. Got a lot of good stuff ahead for you guys. Part of my conversation with Temple offensive line coach and run game coordinator Chris Wiesehan. OurScoop subscribers can get the full conversation and access to the full interview on OurScoop.com. Talk a little bit of men's hoops, talk some women's hoops, and of course talk a lot about the 19 additional signatures the Temple landed yesterday on the February National Signing Day. So 7 high school players, 12 transfers from the FBS, FCS, and JUCO ranks. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you guys by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. Kyle had up on Zoom. Kyle Gauss, did that say so sorry?
So sleepy. So sleepy.
So sleepy.
So sorry to be crazy.
Kyle's got some long hair right now.
Long hair. Sick in the gal's house, but we're grinding through. Sick days
How
are
much
for the
time
week.
do you have?
How much time do I have? Who lives longer, me or King Charles? Let's find out.
Ooh.
He's got one foot in the door.
Kyle just threw one high and inside to jack up the intro banter
I was
there.
gonna say you wanted intro banter.
Yeah, we got it.
Let's talk about the
I'm taking a shot
monarchy.
at the royal family. I didn't have that on my bingo card for today. I'm gonna lose our
Johnny,
list of
Johnny,
London.
what is the royal family's surname?
I don't know. I'm not from England.
Declan.
Charles?
You think
Charles.
Charles is his last name?
Charles.
You think
I
he's
just
King
know
Charles
Charles, that's all I
Charles?
know.
He was born with the name King. Please call me King.
They are from the
No,
house of
I-
Windsor. Windsor.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
Windsor.
Oh,
You okay, bud?
I wouldn't have gotten that. I was listening to Declan.
You wanna start over again?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
on
but
the record now, John.
It is.
I kind of, John, do you remember the SNL skit where it was Will Ferrell would come home and just chastise his dog for his long day? Like, oh, did you have a long day?
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
eating all the food that I
dissing-
provide for you? Like,
Dissing your dog.
yeah, dissing your dog. I kind of feel like we take that tone with Johnny sometimes.
Oh, that's
Okay,
great.
Johnny,
Dissing your
did you
dog.
have
I'm sorry.
Was it a long day? Did you burn the oil at both sides? Burn both sides of the
Athlete's
candle
bleeped
last
out because he's swearing. Yeah. Dissing your Johnny. You know we love you, right?
Oh, I know. Don't worry.
Well, don't get overconfident about it. But yeah, we
Okay.
That's crazy.
we love you though.
I don't know how to feel. Like I just mixed.
Well, that's a bigger
signals.
conversation. We'll have another time. How soon before you land a podcast sponsorship with Ghost? My office, after we record, my office just smells like it, and
It's a good smell.
Just
Probably
Yeah.
keeps you awake. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
For hours.
We know how you get in the afternoon. You know, a little sleepy,
yeah.
a little ready to go home.
It
You're
sounds
welcome.
like the ad read for it. You know how you get in the afternoon, a little sleepy. Kyle, your plans for your hair, I think you should grow it out.
No. I meant to get a cut like 4 weeks ago. I'll get a cut. I have to go into Haddonfield on Saturday for my birthday party, so I'll get a cut before then.
Oh, I thought you said you had I thought you were going to say that you had a new barber lined up in Haddonfield. I was gonna say,
No.
that's a
No. Let me assure you, I am the Great Clips app guy. I bring up my phone. I go, 0 minute wait time at Great Clips. We're going to Great Clips. I could not care less. I have 2 kids. I've been married for almost 9 years. I have nobody to impress. I am just shear me like a sheep.
Joining us now on the Scoop, Meg Gauss. Meg, Kyle said he has no one to impress.
I told her this before, and she always retorts like I should be still trying to impress her, but no.
Well, Meg and Chelsea are still planning at some point to start the Real Housewives of Dallas Scoop Ruse and start their own podcast where they just diss us the whole time. So
I think
I don't know.
I'm waiting for the call in the feature.
I would think that would mostly be Chelsea making fun of you. I think Meg would just take it eventually, being like, you know what, I'm gonna take some jabs here, but like, I respect my husband. I don't want to put air out our and Chelsea would be like, let me tell you what this dude did.
Megs thinks sometimes it's like, well, the last time I got to be around you guys, like if you say something, you insult me, you'll hear her just go, "Oh." Famous number 24s, guys.
Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, Ricky's big one.
Whoever put Jeff Gordon on this list, you're stealing my gimmick, and I'm not happy about it.
Oh, there's a
Pat
list.
Egan, Pat Egan, who has a mailbag question later on.
Who
in the
the
show,
F
is
put
making
Grady Sizemore on here before Willie Mays?
That's Pat Egan.
Oh, so this
Willie
is all Pat
Mays.
All right, Pat, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I apologize. I wasn't
Yeah,
familiar
Pat
with your
Egan,
game.
97.5
I thought it
fanatic.
was one of these guys.
The biggest Temple fan in the world who did not go to Temple. His contributions, former Phillies great Paul Hoover, Austin Matthews, Grady Sizemore, Nnamdi Asomugha, part of the dream team. Sheldon Brown was going to be mine. Love Sheldon. That was
Grady Sizemore.
This week was
Grady Sizemore was a big like early 2000s fantasy baseball guy, mid 2000s.
yeah.
You're like, oh, this guy 5-tool player, and then didn't do anything. Got injured, I think.
Johnny Keane named the 5 tools in baseball.
No.
Johnny,
Five
give
tools?
it a go.
Just
Is this from like a movie or something?
no,
No,
it's
it's
not
No,
from a
it's a-
movie.
it's
When
like-
someone, when
yeah,
scouts,
like
manager,
hitting,
writer-
fielding.
No, it's
Oh,
it's
right.
more
Oh,
it's more
sorry.
specific.
And
It's
There's
more
no way it's
specific for
pitching.
that. I think
I
it's
don't know.
hit for contact, hit for power,
no,
Yep.
glove, base running.
Did you say
Same thing.
fielding?
Although imagine seeing Grady Sizemore on the mound. That'd be pretty
Well,
sick.
pitching's not one of them. It's hit,
Pitching's
hit,
not
I
one of
said
them.
pitching. That's why
that was close.
I was riffing.
speed. Isn't speed one of them? Did we say speed?
I said that. 5 tools baseball. Look at us go. Okay, it's arm. It's arm. It's speed, hitting for
Yeah.
contact, hitting for power, fielding, and an arm strength.
Nice.
Take
More
that
you know.
to the
What would you say?
who the Phillies open up with at home.
Braves.
Braves.
Right. Will you take that to Kyle's team and say, "Hey, you guys need another 5 tools? I got them."
What would you say? The
Well,
five
they
tools of
have
bad
a
boy?
guy in right field who you would call a 5-tool player. So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
probably keenly aware.
Probably.
Yeah.
What would you say are the 5 tools of bad boy?
Speed.
Don't drop thumb cards.
Oh, come on. Really? You got to bring that up?
Don't
Don't
go
get made
handling.
fun of by John Croc.
I couldn't help.
Yes. John Kruk will probably make fun of you.
No
somewhere
Tom
or another.
McCarthy. That's
Yes.
one of the 5 tools.
Knowing Tom McCarthy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cooking.
That is another one.
Beard.
Cooking. That's a
Cooking.
good
Yes.
one.
Making
Cheesesteak.
cheesesteaks. Making
Patience.
cheesesteaks.
When do we get one of your cheesesteaks?
Declan and Rymir both have one.
When do I? When do Kyle and I?
I mean, I could go for another one.
I mean, I'm not mad at
You
it.
gotta come to. Let me know when you're coming to a Phillies game.
We'll all go to a game together.
Okay.
That'd be
Maybe we'll go
fun.
to that Braves game.
Maybe.
Kyle's been
I
known
think
to
it's
be a
probably
Brave
really
fan.
expensive.
Probably.
I'm broke.
Whatever
What other? So
It's on
Eastern
Kyle.
Kyle-
Sunday is. I'm going.
Kyle said Kyle had 2 good ones from baseball. Ricky Henderson, Willie Mays.
Yeah.
We have.
Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan Matthews.
Ryan Matthews.
Ooh.
I was gonna say Kobe. That's the only one I know.
That's too bad.
Yeah,
Should have
nothing
been
else?
quicker. No, why would I?
I don't know.
Marshawn
That was
Lynch.
good for one every time.
What does Scoop sponsor Ranker.com tell us?
Mhm.
My laptop's been broken for a week. I have no idea.
How'd that happen?
The hard drive just
Threw it up
decided
against-
that it didn't want to work anymore.
He threw it up
You
against
know
the
you can
wall.
just get a loaner one from the tech center, right?
Yeah, but you can only have it for 4 hours, and I'm gonna forget.
Oh, that's changed. You used to be able to rent them for like a week at a time.
No, you can't do that
Yeah.
anymore. So I have to edit the gamer tonight on my phone, which is gonna be tough, but
There are a couple
we'll persevere.
of obvious ones that were missing. another-
Obvious?
Baseball player, one of the sweetest swings of all time.
Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes.
Whose first name
Former
is
stud at Michigan.
what? What is Ken Griffey Jr.'s first name?
No, I should know this. I should know this. I should know this. Claire was telling me this. Because he was born in his father's from Bucks County. What is this? Oh, come on. I don't know. What is it? What is it?
George, I believe. I believe it's George.
Is it?
What?
It's a
I
G.
did not have that on the bingo card.
Guy who just retired, very likable baseball player. Literally just retired. As far as I know, he just retired.
Cabrera.
Yes.
Oh, I was thinking Beltray, but that was last year.
Another guy who was maybe the one of the pioneers of the stolen base
Ricky Henderson.
before Ricky.
Hannes Wagner.
No, not that far back.
Ruth.
No, not that far back.
I was trying to think of like an old
His initials are LB.
Tungsten Armo Doyle.
No,
Wait, LB?
yeah,
Lou
Larry.
Brunson.
Lou Brock.
That was pretty close. Look at me.
Another guy did not wear this. He started wearing the number 7 for the Pirates. Then he left for more money.
Okay.
He can't give away the obvious stuff. I'm looking at it. You'll get it immediately.
You should have just guessed it. That's what I would have done.
Pirates and the Giants hit a ton of home runs.
Barry Bonds.
Yeah, Barry Bonds.
Do it.
All right. As I said at the outset of the show, we're going to play part of my conversation with Temple offensive line coach Chris Wiesehan. Again, if you're an owlscoop.com subscriber, you can get access to the full conversation where he goes right down the line talking about all the new offensive linemen that they're bringing in, including some of the players he had a hand in recruiting, what got him into football, what he does off the field, all sorts of good stuff. The portion of the conversation that you're going to hear here on the Scoop is him talking about how they replace a guy like Victor Stoffel, who's going to fill in at center, and just some of the challenges that lie ahead for them. So we'll play this clip of the conversation, and then we'll have more for you on the other side. You lost Victor to the portal, to Cal, but then you have Wisdom Quarshie coming back. What are you going to miss most about Victor? And then what's a plus about Wiz coming back for you guys?
Well, I think, Victor's got to make business decisions. I think there's the allure of that. So we wish him the very best. Victor was a great teacher when I wasn't around. He really knew the offense, and, wish him all the best. And then I think Wisdom is really rolling into that role, if you will, and trying to lead the room and be more vocal and be the teacher when the coach isn't in the room, when it's player led.
So with Rich Rodriguez moving on, you're going to need to find a new starting center. Again, as much as anybody in the country, you cross-train guys. You've talked about it. Danny's talked about it. You teach them all to snap. You teach them all to be ready. Are there any guys from that group, whether it's Wiz or someone else, who maybe have, or maybe like their skill sets might lend themselves to be in the mix for the position there?
Any interior guy will be, but, like Klein moved in there from tackle, right? So he was the best fit. So that's why you do it. When you have 22 different lineups in 24 games in 2 years, you better have that piece prepared. There's some new guys that are exciting, but I'm not going to stamp anybody.
Sure.
That they have to go earn it. So I no one's going to inherit this thing. But yes, I brought some guys in with that in mind, and still being able to grow tackles. It's always hard to go get a tackle in the portal because it's just a challenging thing nowadays with today's market. So we're always probably going to grow our tackles, and we've been fortunate to hopefully hit on some interior guys and just see how it shakes out.
When it comes time to finding guys at that position on the depth chart at center, what do you have to look for in the mental piece of it beyond the physical piece in terms of getting guys lined up, the communication piece of it, just all the demands that come with that part of it?
Well, it's everything above the neck, right? It's the identification, understanding the front structure, who we're going to ideas and on the point, who we're going to, all those types of things. I do try and alleviate systematically how we do a couple of those things. I put a little pressure on the guards from an ID standpoint rapidly so they can communicate to the quarterback and the running back and possibly tight end with a signal so they know how our base rules will start. And then that alleviates one more thing for the center to say, and then we can go at a faster pace. But doing that also allows you to keep the guards engaged, right, and communicating, keeps the back engaged and communicating. And the more you communicate concisely, you're probably going to have more success.
Yeah, big thanks to Chris Wiesehan once again. Again, a reminder: if you haven't subscribed to Owl Scoop, Declan,
What are you doing?
exactly. So subscribe. Good time to subscribe. A lot of signing day content on the site. You'll have the full interview with Chris. Let's talk a little bit about this class, the second installment of Temple's 2024 class. 19 signatures from yesterday, 7 high school players, a couple of good ones in Jamar Taylor and Tyree Alualu from North Allegheny High School. We'll have more on him in a second, but we'll go around the horn here. Guys, again, we say this all the time. Disclaimer is we'll probably know more about a signing class, maybe 2-3 years down the line. Sometimes you don't even have that long with the way college football works now at the portal. But Give me a guy on maybe each side of the ball who you think might make an immediate impact. We did this with the December installment of the class and now with the February portion of it. Guy on each side of the ball that you think could help right away. Kyle, I'll start with you.
Offensively, I'll go Antoine Littleton, the transfer from Maryland. Had a big game against Michigan State 2 years ago. Has a great story where he used to be like 300 and some pounds playing running back. Now is a little leaner. I think he has an opportunity there. I think they're going to continue to try to do running back by committee. So even if it's Jacquez Smith, Therese Worthy, and Littleton, like I think there's different guys there. Defense, I will say Cameron Stewart from Rutgers, and that is more of an indication of they're switching to a 4-3, and I don't think they have that many traditional edge linemen on this team. So I think Cameron Stewart's going to have to play a fair amount just because he's one of the few guys that is recruited to play that position.
Yeah, I think I did a lot of studying on the freshmen for the Temple News. So I'm going for my offensive pick, I'm going Davray Vanu. He's a huge guy. He hasn't really played very long, but he has a lot of upside. He can play pretty much anywhere on the line and is cross-trained, which, as we know, we've talked about it. Coach Wiesehan loves that. So I could see him making an immediate impact. And then on the defensive side of the ball, another freshman, I think Wesley Brown could maybe be something. He was really athletic coming out of Georgia, had 109 tackles and 6 sacks his senior season. I think he could be somebody, especially at linebacker. Like you said, they're playing a different scheme this year. I think he could be somebody that just for sheer like lack of depth at that position that comes in and maybe gets some snaps early in the spring and maybe turns a page a little bit and gets some playing time.
For me, for offense, I'm going Antonio Jones just because, I watched him. There's a story up on owlscoop.com about Antonio Jones.
I heard about that.
Yeah, if you haven't looked at it,
Good
go
story.
look at it.
Good story.
But just the things that he brings, I think he brings a little bit of everything in terms of what you want as a receiver. And Temple needs somebody like that. They need someone with juice. They need someone who can catch the ball after the catch because they love, the short passes, somebody who could take a slant 70 yards for a touchdown. And defensively, I mean, you honestly could say any one of the linebackers, but I'm going to say Tyree Alualu or Alualu because he has that pedigree, that background. Stan talked about him a lot in the presser. So you honestly could say any one of the linebackers, honestly.
Stan had mentioned that a lot of what they did this offseason was trying to work in the trenches and going with Declan. I think Davray Vanu brings them that size, and while he hasn't really played football for too long, I think Stan mentioned that he has an ability to develop, and I think he'll be able to do that. And with the lack of depth that has been there at the offensive line, I think he adds another body there, and I think he'll be able to be cross-trained and be a big impact. And also, going off of Rymir, and I know that you also teased it too, John, Tyree Alualu is someone that Stan spoke very highly of at the signing day press conference. He said he is someone that he's really, really excited about and the athleticism that he brings, and also his background, too, with his father being in the NFL and his uncle being a Hall of Famer in Troy Polamalu. I mean, I think has the ability to be a big impact player.
I'm going to go on offense. Grayson Maines, the South Carolina transfer. Little tease to the interview with Chris. If you hear him, he is fairly optimistic about him. Again, what coach doesn't like all the guys they're bringing in, but I think he has a chance to make an impact right away on the offensive line. And on defense, yeah, I'll go with Tyree. I know he's the popular pick, but so here's Stan Drayton talking about Tyree yesterday during his signing day press conference. Again, you can get that full story and the full audio of it on owlscoop.com. But here is Stan talking about the linebacker from North Allegheny High School just outside Pittsburgh.
I just think that there is a lineage. I mean, his dad's a pro player, too. I don't know if you knew that. His dad was played defensive line for the Detroit Lions this year, played in that playoff game. So he's got a long history of NFL lineage in his family and, understanding what, number one, it takes to get to that level, the commitment, seeing the sacrifices that both of those two individuals have to make to stay at that level. His dad's, I want to say, an 11-year vet. That's huge for a young man who has the hopes and dreams of going to the NFL. There's, guys who say that, and then there's guys that understand what it takes to get there, and having that lineage in his family puts him a step above that way. He's a guy who's played at a very strong North Allegheny team this year, competed for a state championship and all that good stuff. And, he's a guy who played both ways. He played running back and he's playing linebacker. What we found in our past is that, those guys who have transitioned from running back play to linebacker play do extremely well. They understand run fits, right? They understand what the running back's trying to do. They understand how the offensive line is trying to block them. And instinctively, you see it on film, man. When you see certain double teams and see certain schemes, that kid triggers, man. He triggers and he's there. He understands, and I think that a large part of that has to do with his vision as a running back. So the instincts are going to be there. He's not a very big guy, but he's very, very explosive on contact. He's good at tackling, but his ability to anticipate schemes is going to be something that he's going to be a strong suit for him. It's going to be something that he's going to thrive at. It's only going to get better with good coaching from Coach Woods. So I'm very, very excited about him. He's going to be a hell of a player for us, and he was a team captain for a state championship team, and he's going to bring that leadership here and his personality along with us, and very, very excited about him.
Something else I wanted to throw in really quickly before we move on and talk some hoops here and then get into the mailbag. Paul Zeiss is a friend of mine, works out at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and he works on the Fan sports talk radio station out there in Pittsburgh. We used to work together out in South Jersey at the Daily Journal for Gannett. Paul's son, Elijah, was a very good player at North Allegheny. He went on to play at Pitt. Temple was his runner-up. He very, very strongly considered Temple. Went on to be a very good college linebacker. Paul lives out in the area, keeps tabs on the North Allegheny program. And I asked him about Tyree because he was a pretty good, again, he's got to come here. He's got to play. He's got to, show that he can get on the field. But asked Paul about him, and he said, this was Paul's text to me. He's an absolute beast. His dad was a nose tackle with the Steelers and Lions, which we know. And he plays just like his dad with athleticism, recklessness, and angry. I love him. I was shocked he didn't have bigger offers. I thought he was one of the 3 or 4 best players we had around here this year. So I'm wondering again, Kyle, I think we'd probably text about this. He had some bigger offers early on in his recruitment that might have dried up a little bit. I don't know if that was a product of, again, where recruiting is headed now, even more so, where you have some early offers, and unless you're, an elite recruit that teams are going to wait for, it's like you have a spot here. It might dry out pretty quickly due to the portal, or they might have a couple of guys on their recruiting depth chart and they move on. But it continues to sound like Temple got a pretty good player in February. So we shall see there how things shape up. Men's hoops, by the time you guys listen to this, Temple will have played Memphis, the whiteout game. We'll see what type of crowd they get. We know where they are. They're on a losing streak. The 2 overtime losses. We'll talk more about them next week. I can't remember if we have any mailbag questions about them. I will point you guys out again. If you are an owlscoop.com subscriber, you can read Johnny Zawislak's story on Aiden Tobiason. All 3 of you guys went to go see him this past weekend. A long day at the Chase Center. Declan, you were doing some play-by-play work or color commentary work?
Color commentary. Very emotional day. Very beautiful day. So for those of you that don't know, it's called SL24, based out of Delaware. It's a charity devoted to mental health and suicide prevention. Started in memory of one of my family friends. His name is Sean Locke. It's a beautiful day. He played basketball at University of Delaware. That was really his passion. And so every year they do this tournament at the Chase Fieldhouse in Wilmington. And it's a tough weekend, but it's a great weekend for a good cause. They raised over $600,000. So incredible. But yeah, we dragged them out of bed. Got them down there. We were down there all day watching Delaware hoops. So a lot of fun.
And statistically speaking, and again, star players have their high scoring games. They have some games where they're more facilitators. This was a 10-point, 10 rebound game for Aiden Tobiason. Struggled a little bit with a shot, which isn't entirely, that's sort of uncharacteristic for him. But yeah, it's one game. What'd you guys think? Well, you've seen him a couple times now.
Yeah, 2 or 3. I mean, just this season alone. But I think the biggest thing was how big of a factor he is for that team. The defense zeroed in on him all game to the point where Saints had to make other players beat. They were playing Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he really started to shine in the third quarter when they just started running the offense through him. So he's the playmaker. He's a difference maker. He can do it all. and he's just so hard to defend. Like that was the biggest thing. But I really zeroed in on his defense this weekend. He was all over the floor. He was really good at closing out on shooters from distance. His help defense was really good. If you watch him play, his head is constantly like bouncing. Like the way he moves, he bounces up and down and is like head on a swivel the whole time. He's just a very like smart player with how he plays defense. So that's something to look forward to if he can continue that, maybe harness it a little more next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you, Declan, with the defense. I think that was like the big takeaway that I had, where it was his length, the way that he's able to be able to that with the help defense, the way he blocks passing lanes. I know me and you were during the game it talked about. I think when he was calling the second quarter, like the way his hands are always up, and he deflected a couple passes and forced turnovers.
Oh, more than a couple.
I mean, just the way he like is so active on defense, I think is a big thing. And it kind of reminds me of Jaleel White in a way, the way he is on defense, how active he is and how in those passing lanes he is. And I think that's a really big thing.
Per the stat keeper, he had like 3 deflections.
Who was the stat keeper?
It was yours truly. And I think he's an AAC defender right now. Like you could drop him into AAC right now, and he'll be a very, very good defender. I do think his offensive game isn't there all the way yet in terms of consistency and, just making plays consistently and shooting the ball consistently, which, that'll come with time and him getting more experience.
He's got a good looking shot though. I would say. Yeah,
he does. Yeah.
It's just knocking it down consistently for in game.
So they're 14-0. I don't know if St. Elizabeth's played since this weekend.
They did. I believe they won.
Yeah, so that would put them at 15-0, undefeated, top team in the state. At the time that Johnny wrote this story, Aiden was averaging 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists through 14 games. So a good look at one of 2 players from the 2024 class who have signed with Temple. Of course, Dylan Batee is the other one. Guys, the up and down play of the women's basketball team continues. But, again, you continue to see some encouraging stuff, some stuff that they just need to turn the corner on. That USF coming up right on Saturday. Yeah, what do you make of this team? I feel like I ask the question that way each week, but
yeah, I mean we keep talking about turning the corner, right? It's quarter's getting closer and closer. Not a lot more time to turn the corner. It's they get in their own way, and we talked about it a little bit just off the air. Like they always have one quarter that just bars them from being in any game, whether it's they start out slow in the first quarter, or they have a lot of rhythm and they kind of slow down in the second quarter and pick it up after that, or the third quarter they come out flat. Like there always just seems to be one quarter where they fall apart and it like hurts them. I think that's their biggest thing is they can't play 4 quarters of basketball. Like it's been a while since we've seen 4 good quarters, and that's really what kind of killed them in the past week. I do think. Call me crazy, but I do think that this is really a team that can compete. And granted, there are 10 of those in the American right now that can, make a significant argument that they should win the whole thing. But I do think Temple's one of them. I just think that they need to really lock in for 4 quarters of basketball, and we just haven't really seen that.
Would we call Declan crazy for saying that?
I don't think so. I'm kind of on his side with this of it.
Thanks,
I
man.
think. No, yeah, no problem.
Appreciate that.
Of course. Diane came on my our Tuesday show that Jason and Ryan and I have on WHIP Radio, and I asked her.
Find us anywhere on the iHeartRadio and Radio FX app.
That's
What's
right.
the name of the show?
The main event.
There we go.
What time?
3 to 4
On
WHIP Radio
On-
the iHeartRadio.
Did you
on
choose
what
it?
day?
Tuesday?
What time?
Is the main event
Tuesday.
just like a WHIP like dynasty thing? I feel like Greg Frank used to have like the main event.
Greg Frank used to be on it. Zach Gallup used to be on it. Yeah, it's a long-standing show.
Yeah.
It is.
They
It is.
changed it though.
Me a little bit, but
I'm
not
here to
really.
shake up the lineup a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit.
Former program director,
Acting
Rymir Vaughn.
program and director.
acting program director emeritus.
Yes, emeritus is a good
Johnny,
word.
go ahead.
But no, I was just like, she came on the show, she talked for 15 minutes, and I asked her, I was like, what's one thing that like is like contributing to the inconsistencies that you need to do better going forward? And she said it's been the communication, whether it's on defense or offense. They're not talking when there's backdoor cuts or on switches on screens. And I think that's the one thing that they need to fix, because the American, you have to be a tough defender if you want to succeed and you want to go far. And I think if you're not communicating, you're not going to be able to do that. And one of the things she said they were doing is she's miking them up during practice and connecting it to the speakers so they could see who's talking on defense. So I thought that was funny.
Interesting.
Couldn't they just
Would you
find out
leave
who
the
was
mic
talking
up
on
all day?
defense by like listening to who was talking on defense? Why do they need
That's
to pump?
fair. I mean,
Why do they need to pump?
I think
that
I
in
think I think
speakers?
it's so it's connected to the.
Jay.
I think it's so it's connected to the loudspeaker, so like everyone, even when they're not
Raised a
playing,
lot of
can
good
hear.
points.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, you know how like they say some teams are never out of games because like, oh, they could always go on a run, or like the Phillies are never out of games because they're a power team. Temple's never out of games in the bad way. Like even when they're up 15, they're never out of that game. Like they, for better or for worse, they have a reputation at this point of a team that blows leads. They did it for the last 2 weeks. They were a tier East buzzer beater away from going 0-3 during that stretch. It's a little concerning to me because they're not that young of a team. Like, yes, there's young people. I like Julissa Molina is young, and like Tristan Taylor is young, but like Aaliyah Nelson's been playing for 6 years. Diane Richardson shouldn't have to be still kind of figuring out with them like where's the communication. So like that's a little concerning to me, but on the other end, they're like 2 plays away from being 7-1 in the conference and everything fine. So
I feel like they got to be more consistent in late game situations, because I was going over, their schedule and their wins and losses and stuff. And when over like the last month since December started, when they win games, they win games. Like they're convincingly winning games. But when they lose, it's always a close loss. And I'm working on the story about Demi Washington and her performance over the last couple weeks and how she's performed for Owl Scoop. Check it out when it come out. But I talked to her recently, and I asked her, I was like, so why is that? Like, why do you guys can't seem to put it together at the end of like close games? And she was just like, consistency. And yes, like they are a very inconsistent team. Like sometimes they're shooting the ball really well, sometimes they're not shooting the ball really well, sometimes they're playing really good defense, other times they're not playing really good defense. Sometimes it feels like it just depends on the night, and they have to find a way to string good defensive performances, good shooting performances together. And if you can do that, that's a big if, because battling with consistency now in the season is kind of like it's who you are. So
yeah, any team can talk about consistency. I kind of agree with Kyle, where it's like kind of concerning. Like what team, unless you're a top 5 team all season, that's like undefeated or has one loss, that's consistently consistent all the time, when you can say we're inconsistent and you say, okay, why? So we'll see what happens this weekend on Saturday against USF. Follow Owl Scoop for a coverage of the game. Let's get into the mailbag. First couple questions here coming from Twitter. The first one is from Andrew Forgotch on Twitter. More than 40 signees for football. Are these numbers we'll see regularly, or will it depend on the year or the situation? Kyle?
Yes. I think 42 is extreme. I mean, that's literally half the roster, right? Like half your scholarship allocation coming in one class is probably not the new norm. But oversigning, I know Drayton talked about this, about how he thinks programs are just going to habitually oversign going forward, because inevitably you'll lose people in May that maybe weren't necessarily expecting. But I think a lot of this was, for as frustrated as Temple fans are about going 3-9 3 straight years, Stan Drayton is also very keenly aware that he cannot go 3-9 next year. So I think there are some guys they brought in that they were like, look, we need some plug and play dudes. We need to build depth here. We can't afford to take just high school kids and figure it out. So I would expect bigger classes going forward. I don't think 42 is normal. But that being said, Temple's not the only one. Like Oklahoma brought in 40 dudes. Like it's happening everywhere. There's a lot of movement going on.
Yeah, and of course, if they ever make any sort of discernible progress with NIL, or they win a couple more games and they start to make a little bit more progress there, then yeah, maybe they don't have as much turnover. But again, some good national context there from Kyle. Next question from Glenn Phillips on Twitter. Had the chance to meet Glenn earlier this season over in Lockheed prior to a game. His question from Twitter: with so many new players coming in and out, what should the expectations for football be this fall? Has to be bowl eligibility, right? Or it must be competing for a conference title? I think it's a little bit closer to bowl eligibility as opposed to a conference title. Rymir, you're anytime this topic comes up, you're very I don't want to say you're very, very pessimistic, but you're not as optimistic.
I'm not. It's
Yeah.
all how it is. I'm not. It's pessimistic. It's pessimism. Whatever you want to call it. I'm not. I don't think
Feel
this
your
team.
feelings. Let it flow through you.
I don't think this team is going to be very good next year. I don't see a win in non-conference play. Maybe they get UConn.
Wait. You think they're going to go 0-4 in non-conference?
I do.
Why? Like UConn might be the worst FBS program in the nation. Like they're
Temple ain't far off. It's the same thing with the basketball team. It's like we'll look at the schedule and be like, oh, okay, they should beat this team, forgetting that Temple is a bad team as well. And like I said, I think they go 0-4. Their one win, if they get a win in non-conference play, it will be UConn. They're going to start 0-3, and then we're going to hear all the fire Stan. Let's do this. What about the football program? Is the football program going to get any better? We should have hired Fran Brown. All of the stuff that
pretty much hit it all. Yep, I pretty much covers it all.
Everything that we've heard since for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And then
what has Blake Anderson ever done in his career that makes you think, yep, Utah State flying across the country to Philadelphia? Temple doesn't stand a chance. So is Utah State, man. There's a lot of bad football teams.
I don't have faith in what I see here. Now, if I had more if they gave me, I'm a big believer on you have to show me first before I start just giving you stuff, right? Like, okay, if they can prove to me that they can beat bad teams, I'll give them okay, they can beat bad teams, but they haven't proven to me that they can beat bad teams. They're a Taiwan Francis interception away from losing to no, I'm gonna say this. They're a great defensive performance away from losing to Akron. Yeah. Norfolk State, good for them. Navy, when we previewed Navy, we said if they can shut down the one thing that Navy is good at, they'll have a chance to win, and they did that, which is good. But they don't do it.
What an asinine comment in hindsight. If you can shut down the one good thing that the Navy, if you can shut down the option, well, yeah, you're playing an option team. That's what it is.
Exactly. It would have been the same way with Army. It's the same way with Air Force. But they don't inspire me to believe that they can win. Plus, with all the things that happened this offseason, a whole bunch of change. There's going to be more. There's more changes on the offensive line. There's more changes on defense. Whether it's who's going to play in the secondary. You lost all your linebackers or all your linebackers with experience.
Let me talk about that. Let me comment about that real quick. Whereas outside of maybe Jordan McGee, who cares? Like, to be blunt, they were a bad defense, right? So losing these guys on defense, you're saying you have to replace everybody in your secondary. They were a bad secondary. So it can't be worse.
Replacing them with guys who have no experience. Well, some of them.
But that's not the case. That's not the case whatsoever. I think they brought in a lot of guys on defense that have a lot of experience.
We got a good debate going here.
At this level, at the FBS level.
Torrey Richardson started 24 games in the last 2 years at the FBS level.
Okay, so they have experience. Now you got to get everybody to mesh. They have to learn a new system. They have to learn a new scheme. It's just different. It's a whole lot of moving pieces and different things and variables that make me think that this team is not going to win a lot of games.
Would you say that you have put the latest chip on their shoulder? Because I think if there was a drinking game in yesterday's press conference, it would be chip on their shoulder every time Stan Drayton said chip on their shoulder. Take a shot of Ghost Energy. Johnny would be able to run from here to Wildwood in 7 minutes.
I would.
What was that mile time for you when you were in high school?
4:30.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Quicker than you out there.
Ooh.
I want to believe that this team will win more than 3 games next year. I want to. But as of right now, and what I've seen from them, I know we have to wait and some things have to, play out, and we have to figure out who's doing what, who's starting.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know who's starting at quarterback. It could be Forrest Brock for all we know. And Declan's face.
I hope not.
Well, but small sample size for him.
Yeah. He played one half.
Could be.
He showed a better arm in that one half.
Like I like to point out.
Did you say the great?
The great Rod Carey once said, guys are allowed to be better. It was Kyle likes to point out. It was his greatest contribution to Temple football. That and certainly disappointed in the outcome.
And yelling at Ray to get off his phone.
To be fair, Ray deserved that, though. Like that was on Ray.
He did a little bit. He just looked at Rod and was like, "Man, I got a lot of tables right now." Kyle,
I don't know.
closer to bowl eligibility, not, but they're not.
Yeah, so
competing for a
that's the
conference
thing
title
that
next year.
frustrates me right now is I don't want to paint the picture. I don't want to be put in the corner that I think they're a bowl eligible team next year because I don't. Like I don't think that. But like the difference between Temple and UConn and Temple and Utah State and Temple and Coastal Carolina is not the difference between Temple and Oklahoma. And I'm not gonna just automatically chalk those up as losses, I'll say. But the rest of the schedule is easier than last year. You get guys at home that normally aren't getting bad teams at home. But no, I don't think they need to go 7-5 or Stan Drayton to feel safe next year or anything like that. I think they just need to show some improvement. I'll say they're 4-8 team next year. I'm gonna say they're gonna go 4-8.
Kyle said it. Set aside your plans. Keep early December open for the conference championship game.
Sure.
That's what I heard.
I
I think
bet.
their biggest thing is they just need to compete in games. Like I think that was the most like
It's a lightning take right there. They got to compete.
But no, I mean like it was 3-9 with a lot of bad losses.
Right.
Like even if it's like a 4-8, like Kyle said, with some competitive losses, like that's when we were sitting here a couple of weeks ago and we were talking about somebody in the mailbag, one of our esteemed listeners, and thank you so much for doing it, asked us, did they take a step back? And one of our main points was they were 3-9 with some close losses year one. This year it was 3-9 with a lot of just bad losses or wins that they should have had and got in their own way, right? Like I think if they show some just improvement enough that even if it's not in the record book, if it's four one score games where anything could have happened and they fall short, like with the talent that's on the roster, I think even that is a step up. So I am it's bowl eligibility, no question, but like I'm not even looking at that right now. I'm looking at, can they be competitive in games?
Next question here from the message board from one of our longtime subscribers, Green Street Al. It's the screen name. If it's not too late, it's not Green Street Al. You got it in a little late, but happy to get the question in. Let's put Deion Dawkins aside because he's in a different category.
You already know.
Am I reading the question here or are you reading the question?
I just wanted to add some flavor to it. It's like when Lil Jon hops on an Usher song.
What?
Yeah.
I saw
That
Kyle's
sample
face.
size of one. That
Yeah,
one Usher
yeah.
song.
Yes. Yeah.
Imagine Lil Jon
Yeah.
jumping on other
Yeah.
Usher songs.
Yeah.
Like Confessions. You see Lil Jon in the
Be
background.
awesome. My confessions. Yeah.
Oh,
That'd
man.
be sick. Tell me you wouldn't listen to that.
We just did.
That's what I'm
We'll
saying.
get back to you.
Alright.
If it's not too late, Green Street Al asks, and let's put Deion Dawkins aside because he's in a different category. How many years in the NFL do Tyler Matakevich, Sean Bradley, Rock Ya-Sin, PJ Walker, and Chosen Anderson, and anyone else I'm missing have left in the NFL? I guess he missed Brandon McManus, right? And some other guys. I'm asking this from a positive standpoint. Hassan Reddick. Missed Hassan, right?
I think
asking this
he's
from a
saying
positive standpoint.
the fringe guys. Like how long?
Oh, fringe guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm asking this from a positive standpoint, knowing they've all probably exceeded outside expectations of their NFL careers, and the Temple fans should continue to be proud of all of them. All right, let's start with Tyler Matakevich.
I mean, that's got to be
because he's a core special teamer.
that's got to be coming to an end. I think the opposite. I think he's lost a lot of his special teams responsibilities on the Bills. He's no longer like their gunner like he was his first couple of years. I think it's probably. I mean, it's been 8 years, right?
Mhm.
True. Yeah.
So like, I don't know, maybe as a couple more.
Yeah. I mean, you get a 10-year career as a backup
Yeah.
linebacker and special teamer. That's
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 the
good
problem
for
with
him.
him versus like a Sean Bradley is like Sean Bradley in theory, if they needed to when he was healthy, if they needed to put him in at linebacker, he's athletic enough to do that. When Tyler Matakevich has to play like actual linebacker snaps, it's a problem in the NFL. So that goes against some on special teams too.
Sean Bradley, we'll see. Obviously, coming off the Achilles, and he was in a contract year, so he's a free agent right now, right?
Sounds right.
Is he? Yeah. So the Eagles have a new defensive coordinator and Vic Fangio, new linebackers coach, no longer DJ Elliott. I think DJ's back at EO, knocking on the door. Psst, Stan.
No.
It's Deej. What's up?
Sorry.
Anybody home?
Hello. I like DJ Elliott a lot. I like DJ. I hope he.
He's a
I'm
nice
sure.
guy.
I'm not sure if he's landed on his feet elsewhere yet, but Sean Bradley could see him playing a few more years in the league. Again, I don't think he's a starting caliber linebacker like
The one thing that
Tyler.
I'm not gonna say offense, but offense. The one thing I'll take offense to with this question is I don't think Rocky Sin should be in this conversation of like he's exceeded expectations in the NFL. Like he was a second round pick.
Hmm.
Like he's expected to
Yep.
still be in the
Mhm.
NFL and still contributing.
Mhm.
If anything, he's been a little bit of a undersell in the NFL. Like he really hasn't
Yep.
carved out that role.
Yeah. PJ, I could see knocking around a couple more years just as a backup. Again, we know I love PJ. He's had the chance to start some games. I think we can fairly say he's not a consistent long-term starter, but I think he's put enough on tape to where he could bounce around. You know, would you want him as the Eagles' number 3 quarterback behind a Tanner McKee or no?
No, the
He'll be a
issue,
camp body.
yeah, he's a guy who I bet you he'll still play a couple more years, but it's because like he's not on a team, not on a team. Some team gets injured and they bring him in November because he's like a
Mhm.
veteran guy who can kind of come in and just like steady the ship a bit. But like no, like that's the other thing that works against him is if teams do carry 3 quarterbacks, that third quarterback's usually a developmental guy, and PJ's almost 30 now.
Mhm.
So I think
All
I
I'm
mean, look,
saying
if AJ McCarron's still getting calls to go play in the XFL or whatever, then like PJ might be able to collect a couple more game checks too.
Pat Egan is going to close us out here with some mailbag questions he's been promising. As usual, he's got the serious one and then the funny one. The serious one are on topic. Who's got the brighter future, the football team or the basketball team at Temple? Who wants to start us off?
What's the timeline?
I don't know, Pat. Then give me a
The
timeline.
future. We'll say
The
5,
future.
5, 10, 20.
Well, look, they'll
20,
all
20.
eventually get burnt out when the sun goes black, right? Like when the sun
Yes.
just stops producing heat, that's the end of both Temple basketball and Temple football.
Some
So
would say existence as we know it.
yeah, I'll be dead by then, Declan. So I wouldn't say that because my existence
So
as I
is
know
Kyle.
it.
Kyle
gone.
always like if he were like a risk management guy, like an actuary, Kyle's mortality tables would look a little bleak. He always projects an early death for himself. Do you not? That's fair, right? You always say like I'll be dead in 7 years, 10 years. The timeline changes, but it's usually brief.
For a while, I didn't think I was going to live past 30. That was kind of like a thing in my 20s where I was like, inevitably, I will die in my 20s. But then here we are. I'm still kicking. I'm
Yeah.
still out here.
You got to set the bar low, so anything over that is a success.
I just always had the feeling that, like, for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, something would happen to me. They'd be like, Kyle died when the chickens got out of the coop and the grain silo emptied out on them. Like, it'd be something insane. Like,
Kyle, your untimely demise aside, who's got the brighter future, the football program or the men's
segue.
basketball program?
what would you say,
segue.
5, 10, 20? Is that what you said?
Let's say 5 years. We don't have time for 20 years.
For
If
chicken.
anybody's gonna be dead in 20 years, it's gonna be me.
All right.
Nobody wanted to say it. You said the quiet part loud. We were all thinking it.
We're all-
I still think basketball just because I think it's easier to quote unquote fix basketball, right? Like basketball doesn't have to worry about, despite what John Rothstein wants to yell into the void, it doesn't have to worry about being in like a who cares conference or like the facilities or anything like that. Like they just need to figure out recruiting, like via NIL. And like with basketball, you can get that done with like 2 kids. Like you hit on 2 kids, then like everything's great. Like, is that Aiden Tobiason and Dylan Petit? Who knows? Is it somebody else that's coming down the pipeline? Who knows? I think basketball has a brighter future. I expect them to be better next year than they are this year.
I 100% agree. I think the basketball program is not an easy fix, but it's a way easier fix than the football program with the state of where football is right now. It's more of just a stepping stone for players that have more eligibility after looking to transfer up, or it's people coming in with the last chance with 1 year of eligibility left. With basketball, you can get 1 or 2 guys like Kyle said, and then all of a sudden you win a couple games. Maybe you're a bid stealer and you're in the tournament and people have their eye on you. And then recruiting's fixed and fans come to games. I just think basketball in 5 years, if you hit on a couple recruits with Fisher and people like him, I think it's fixed way faster.
Do you think I'll be alive in 20 years?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean he hesitated, but I think Kyle like briefly mentioned.
Wait, what did you say?
I said he hesitated.
I was just caught off guard by the question. I wasn't expecting that follow up.
Kyle has a look on his face like, yeah, I'm not so sure.
Look, I mean, anything can happen in 20 years, including your
Yikes,
untimely
okay.
demise.
Very morbid.
Rymir, who's got the brighter future, football or basketball? Say something positive for once, for God's sakes.
Oh, it was less
I'm positive
positivity.
that-
It was less positivity coming, but I would say the basketball team is the obvious answer. Like, to be honest, there's a lot of question marks surrounding the university itself, which means there's more question marks surrounding football. So I don't have, a crystal ball or anything. So who knows if the football program is even going to be a thing in, 5 to 10 years.
Ooh.
That's been like the evergreen hot take for the last like 25 years. People are like, well, it doesn't matter because in 2007, the football team won't even be here. And guess what? They're still kicking. They're still here.
Okay.
They'll still be bad. But the basketball team, like Kyle said, there's only one or two. You really only need one or two.
Rymir,
guys to fix the program.
usually I think you're like a happier person than you are today. Like
No, I am. It's just that I'm an optimistic. I'm an optimistic person, but I am also a realist. And like when it's time to get real, I'm real. So
Second part of Pat's question to close things out on this week's episode of The Scoop. And as Pat always says when he transitions into the fun part, what would be the topic of the Netflix docuseries made about the other people on the show? Individual docuseries here. What would the focus be on? Keep in mind the true crime angle. Statute of limitations is up, mind you. Let's start. I want to start with the Netflix docuseries on Johnny Zawislak.
Oh, my.
Interesting.
all world runner turned Phillies bad boy.
Fall from grace. Icarus,
The
Johnny Zawislak story. He flew too close to the sun.
He ran too close to the sun.
When equipment started to go missing from opposing teams' clubhouses.
I do kind of like the angle of.
I don't know where your wallet is. Why are you looking at me?
Oh. Let's not put that out in the air.
I was like, Johnny's like, please,
I don't need
please,
those allegations.
please do
Johnny's a great kid.
No, he would never
Johnny's
do
a
that.
class A.
He would never do
This
that.
is Fantasyland. We're not.
You
talking
don't
about
usually
actual.
suspect
Oh,
the
yeah.
All I'm
person
saying
that
is
does
I
it.
would be nicer.
Wait, what was that, Kyle?
It's like it's not usually the person you suspect. So him being a nice guy, like he's gonna be the last one they look at. Or when did
Just saying. Opposing.
when did
teams.
Shohei
Be a little
Ohtani's
nicer
like
to Johnny.
Shohei Ohtani's loose like hairs disappear from the locker room? Johnny selling it on eBay.
That's crazy.
I envision a more positive thing where like you're like the bat boy and the natural, where like someone maybe a couple years down the line you are the Phillies bat boy.
Oh,
Adam Cronali moves on, so you're now the Phillies bat boy. Bryce, it's like Game 7 of the World Series. Bryce hooks just a rocket down the right field line, 5 feet foul. Comes back and his favorite bat is broken, and you go pick him out a winner. He says, Johnny, pick me out a winner. And you come back and you're like, Bryce, I made this bat from a piece of wood just off of Route 422 from a tree that was struck by the lightning. That's what I see for you.
Like Mike.
No, it's
It's literally the natural. Yeah,
Pops
it's
out
like-
the left field.
It is the plot. It is the plot of the natural.
I mean, in that scenario, if Bryce Harper 2-2 count, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, down by 2, guy on first, and he asked Johnny to pick out a bat, Johnny's soiling his pants. Like that is not a moment.
Okay.
Soiling might be an understatement.
Like you are not going to handle that well. I wouldn't handle it well, so I wouldn't expect you to handle it well.
I disagree.
like,
I think
here's-
Johnny's got a stern
Here's
side to
a
him.
bat I found that's loosely constructed from paper mache and a matchbox. And be like, all right, well, I trust you,
Here go, I
Johnny.
took this off of one of your action figures.
He's just up there. Just
If they throw it outside, it's going to be tough to reach.
I think we
Hope
also
they don't go
missed
low and
the
away.
we also missed like the Netflix docuseries part of this because where's the docuseries in this? This is
Oh,
just
that's 8 episodes easy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know.
That's
We're just talking about like the penultimate.
that's the
moment.
cliffhanger before the last episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Rymir, docuseries about Rymir Vaughn.
Oh,
What's the topic?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what. First episode, it ends with Rymir going to Drexel to take the engineering class.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It has to be something along the lines of like he could have been an engineer and then, like
Yes.
chose not to. Like that's like the
Yeah.
cliffhanger.
And then by episode 3, it's my favorite video, which I won't tell you how to find it, but he does an interview with Bleacher Report.
I know what you're talking
And
about.
that's when everything starts getting going. And I think that's where we take off from there. And then it's just his grind to the top, you know.
I like that. I wouldn't change it.
What do you, Declan? What's your docuseries about?
That's a good question. I picture it as like the Joker, but like
Jesus.
But with more murder. More murder.
You just driving on 495 south.
I want it to be like a psychological thriller about my life.
Do
But
I
just
go 95
completely,
or do I go 495?
completely
Gee,
fabricated.
that wasn't bad. That wasn't a bad
True.
Joker voice.
That was pretty good.
I said it was bad.
No, I said
Oh.
it was not a bad. Was not a bad
Oh,
Joker
okay.
voice.
I was gonna say, I
I'm
thought.
not used to
I mean, I'm the
compliments from Kyle.
closest to the laptop.
All the years of Kyle just roasting John came up there.
It's batter
How
John
long have we known
syndrome.
each other? Since like 2010ish?
2009, I believe.
How many compliments in
No, don't paint this
in
shit. If
16
anything,
years- in
I'm more.
15 years
no,
you think you've given
no,
me?
no. Absolute bullcrap. Do I have to bring up the 150 2-hour-long phone calls I used to get from you where I gotta just like fluff you up for 2 hours and say, John, like, you're a great guy. It's definitely not your fault that all these women keep leaving you. Like, it's definitely. Do not
what if that happened on Words with Friends?
do not paint the picture that I'm out here being like, well, yeah, you do deserve pain. Like, no, I've always been complimentary. If anything, other way around. Okay? Can't drink from an empty cup.
That's crazy.
We got my docuseries out of the way.
It's The Bachelor.
Oh my god.
I'd watch it. We'd get
I
9
would.
seasons.
Yes, after
We'd get legendary run.
after 5 or 6 dates with a girl, she broke things off with me over a direct message on Words with Friends. There you go.
So-
I didn't know we were gonna bring it up.
That's so good. Out there. You are a great guy. Just not my type of great guy.
Kyle's like, oh, I texted Kyle. It's like this thing ended. He goes, "Oh, buddy, I'll be home. I'll be home a little bit." When I told my sister-in-law that happened, she thought that she was like trying to. She's like, "Wait, did she spell out like done on the Scrabble board?" I was like, "No,
Over. Plus 300.
no, it was." I was like, "No, it was." It was a message that I read while waiting for the subway to go home. So
Brutal.
yeah,
Playing Words with Friends, or she was just
we
like,
had been we
"Can't
had
do it."
we
Did the game
you
get
should
finished?
download the Words with Friends app so I can communicate with you on this.
Did you guys finish the match? Like, after she broke up with you via Words with Friends, did you continue
Of course.
to play that game?
That's a great question.
Of course he did. I mean,
You're like,
32 point.
Message
I take it
received.
seriously.
Message received. I don't really appreciate the way you did it. Anyway, here's my like it just
It's like the LeBron meme where he's playing the Celtics, he's on the Heat, and he puts his hands on his knees and he like makes this like locked in face. That's exactly what John looks like then.
Yeah.
He was like, I gotta win this game.
Yep.
I was like,
No,
who
we
else
have
you
to
know?
play
Who else you know out here dropping quirky 31 points?
Your docuseries is about you become a Joker like character.
Yeah,
and you
it's
just
completely fabricated just how I want my life story to be remembered.
How about Kyle?
We open.
Kyle just shook his head. He just shook his head.
We open on the river.
On the river in the kayak.
Raymond River, baby. I was out there in the wilderness. I don't know. I've lived a very eventful life, John. You can just tell by the wear and tear on this face. Been out there.
What about an opening scene where you and Paul, since we brought up Paul earlier, you guys are
Did we?
watching Music Video Monday and you're just watching a string of Taylor Swift videos and you two
Let me be clear.
extremely upset with Travis Kelce.
The Facebook memories of you posting, God, when you were in like your worst stage of posting so many Facebook statuses, and you would like mock me for watching Taylor Swift. I was 12 years ahead of the game. Okay, I recognized
were.
talent early on.
So the docuseries about Kyle Gauss
Overcoming the hard expectations of growing up in middle class suburbia. It's just like a real like overcoming hardships. I don't know. I don't think I'd be the guy that like you would assume that it'd be a good docu-series because it's put up on Netflix and you're like, this is great. This is gonna be just as good as the one about the guy, the fertility doctor that impregnated half a town. It's gonna be just as good, and then you wouldn't get through all 8 episodes. You'd get through like the first episode and you're happy, like, not that exciting.
Starting in Muncie, Indiana.
I did not start in Muncie, Indiana, but I did live in Muncie.
I know.
Indiana.
I said, would the docuseries pick up with where your life was and like when you were in junior high in Muncie, Indiana?
I would think that's where a lot of my anecdotes probably started because my first like 11, 12 years in downtown weren't that eventful, I guess. But yeah, Indiana, I would say, is when I kind of got let off the leash. And I had
That's the name, Kyle Gauss Unleashed.
I had a random memory the other day in Indiana how we used to just go to junkyards to find parts for cars. Like that was just like a thing we did. Like, oh, my buddy's mirror got smashed when he would like hit a mailbox. Let's go find another mirror. And we would just drive into a junkyard and find a mirror and take it off of like a junkyard car and attach it to his. I just suppressed that memory for 15 years, but it happened. I have that memory.
It sounds like a John Cougar Mellencamp lyric.
I can only picture the scene in High School Musical 3 where they're in the junkyard.
And this was also during the time when high schoolers would put like ridiculous bass in the back of their car to the point it was like rattling. So we were listening to probably like ludicrous rattling things just driving into this junkyard to find loose
Why
parts.
the mirror broke.
And with that, we'll bring this episode to a close.
Oh, real quick, Temple J asked, how many new starters do you see on both sides of the ball?
Oof.
All of them.
On defense, it might legitimately be like 9.
I'm gonna say 7 on defense.
Offense, I imagine like you'll see some like stragglers from like wideouts. Like Zay Baines is still going to play. Dante Wright's still going to play.
Ian Stewart if he's healthy.
Yeah. Like Wisdom Corshie's still going to have a role.
I'd be surprised if Wise isn't one of the 5 starting offensive linemen.
I was gonna say, do you count Joe Quez then?
No, because I think Darvon took over later.
I would agree with that.
So then that's a new person.
I'll set the over-under on both sides combined at 15.5.
I think that's a good line.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect, actually.
What's over under on what?
15.
On both sides.
Yeah, new
for
starters. Sides 15 and a half.
I think that's
Yeah, I would take the over on that.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. The offensive line is where it gets interesting.
Right.
Can you really count anyone as a starter besides like
That's true.
Victor and Rich Rod?
Luke Watson.
And
I would say
Watson.
Luke Watson.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Corshi,
Yeah. Okay. So never mind.
All right.
Here we go.
Drop the
stuff,
curtain.
guys.
Another great episode.
Good stuff.
Covered a lot of ground.
Lot of ground.
Thanks to
Lot of ground.
Thanks to Chris Wiesehan for the most serious and down to earth portion of the pod today. And keep an eye on Netflix in the next few years. Thanks, Pat
Maybe.
Egan. Pat Egan always gets us way off topic. That's what he likes. What he likes to do. So, big thank you to all of you for listening for another episode. We'll talk to you next week.